7 signs you're not just light or dark, you're the rarest bridge chosen one. We've been told for lifetimes that there are only 2 forces in this world, light and dark, good and evil, day and night. And for most people, that binary is enough. It's easy to digest. You're either healing or hurting. You're either a savior or a destroyer. But what if I told you there's a third path? A rare one. A hidden one. One that doesn't belong to either polarity, yet contains the full spectrum of both. You're not just light. You're not just dark. You are the rarest type of chosen one, the bridge. And your existence isn't just rare, it's revolutionary. You've probably never fully fit into the lightworker communities. You were too raw, too real, too angry to be purely peaceful, too skeptical to be blindly spiritual. But at the same time, you never belonged in the dark either. You weren't destructive just for the sake of chaos. You weren't malicious. You didn't seek to dominate. You weren't numb to truth, you were obsessed with it. So you walked between. You listened when no one else was listening. You saw patterns others ignored. You held grief in one hand and love in the other. And the world didn't know what to do with you.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Let me ask you something deeply personal. Have you ever felt like you were sent here to do something massive, but every path you tried to take, light or dark, felt incomplete? Like both sides were only showing you fragments of a bigger truth you could feel, but couldn't name. That's not confusion. That's initiation. Because the bridge chosen one isn't here to pick a side. They're here to reveal the illusion of sides entirely. Being a bridge means you've been trained by both realms. You've tasted the purity of light, the compassion, the healing, the surrender. But you've also been dragged through the underworld, through trauma, shadow work, ego death, and the kind of pain that makes you question whether God even exists. And what's wild is, neither broke you. Both forged you. You didn't escape the dark by clinging to light. You integrated the dark by becoming strong enough to hold both. And that's why your energy doesn't just heal, it shakes people to their core. Because when you speak, you don't just speak love, you speak truth, and truth doesn't always feel good. The first sign you're a bridge chosen one is that you've never found a belief system that fully captured what you know to be real. Religion felt limiting. New Age teachings felt fluffy. Even the more grounded spiritual paths eventually felt too narrow. Why? Because your soul came encoded with cross-dimensional memory. You didn't just come here with a message, you came here with a map. And limiting yourself to one framework would be like trying to describe a galaxy with a single word. You need multiple languages to speak your truth. You need paradox. You need contradiction. Because your mission is to reunite what has been separated by illusion. Another sign. You've been misunderstood your entire life, not because you're incoherent, but because your frequency is ahead of its time. People didn't know how to categorize you, so they labeled you unstable, intense, intimidating, even dangerous. But in reality, you were just untranslated. Your energy carries codes that bypass logic. You've never just spoken words, you've spoken frequencies. And some people feel those frequencies as healing, while others feel them as confrontation. That's not your fault. That's your function. Because a bridge doesn't ask for comfort. A bridge demands crossing. You've also probably felt torn between extremes. One day you're meditating, channeling divine peace. The next day you're raging, confronting injustice, refusing to stay quiet. And you've questioned yourself, haven't you? You've wondered if you're fake, if you're broken, but you're not, you're whole. You are the living reconciliation of opposites. You are the embodiment of sacred contradiction. And that's not a flaw. That's your superpower. Because when people encounter you, they're not just meeting a person. They're meeting integration. They're meeting the future of consciousness. Here's another deep layer to this. You've likely had initiations that no one else saw. The kind of spiritual warfare that doesn't leave bruises, but leaves you gasping for breath in the middle of the night. You've battled voices that weren't yours. You've wandered through emotional deserts with no map, no mentor, no guarantee of survival. And still, you kept going. Why? Because something in you knew, something in you trusted that the pain wasn't for nothing. And it wasn't. Every wound was a doorway. Every betrayal was a redirection. Every breakdown was a sacred cracking, making room for a truth bigger than what you were taught. So let me ask you something brave. What if your inability to fit in wasn't a curse, but a confirmation? What if your contradictions are not a sign of confusion, but completion? What if you're not meant to choose between light and dark, but to transcend both by becoming the bridge between them? You're not just a healer. You're not just a shadow worker. You're not just a mystic or a rebel or a prophet. You're all of it. And that's why your path is so lonely sometimes, because few can walk it. Most people need camps. They need categories. But you weren't born to fit into a camp. You were born to build the road between them. And here's the final sign for now. You've always known that your life was preparing you for something beyond personal success. You've felt the weight of collective energy in your body. You've cried over things that didn't happen to you. You've sensed shifts in the planetary field before they were spoken aloud. Why? Because you are a living tuning fork. Your nervous system is wired to detect imbalance in the collective. And your role is not just to observe it, but to alchemize it by existing as proof that wholeness is possible. You, the bridge, are the future of this planet. Not because you are perfect, but because you are whole. And in a world addicted to division, wholeness is the rarest medicine of all. The sacred weight you carry, why the bridge chosen one feels everything so deeply. There's something terrifyingly beautiful about being a bridge chosen one, and something unbearably heavy. You don't just walk through life, you carry it. You hold frequencies that most people avoid. You absorb energies that others project. You feel things that no one around you even has language for. And half the time, you're not even sure if what you're feeling is yours. That's the sacred weight. That's the cost of being a soul who was never meant to live only for themselves. You were designed to transmute, not just survive. And that's why your nervous system feels like it's been wired into the collective grid. Have you ever walked into a room and felt your chest tighten before anyone spoke? Or cried for no reason, only to find out someone you love was breaking down in silence miles away? Have you ever woken up from dreams that felt more like missions, like you were doing soul work in another realm? That's not your imagination. That's your design. You are a bridge. And bridges don't just hold people, they feel every step they take. You're not just spiritually sensitive, you're structurally attuned to emotional, energetic, and even cosmic currents. Your body is a tuning fork, your heart is a translator, and your pain is often not even yours. This level of sensitivity is not a flaw. It's a form of sacred intelligence. But here's the difficult truth. Most people can't carry what you carry, so they mock it. They call you dramatic, unstable, too emotional. But what they don't see is that you're processing for the whole field. When everyone else suppresses, you feel. When others deflect, you absorb. When others numb, you break. And it's not weakness. It's sacrifice. Not because you're a martyr, but because your soul signed up to be the transmutation point for energies that would otherwise rot in silence. But here's the paradox. While you're built to feel everything, you're also built to transform it. That's the part people don't understand. They think your depth makes you fragile. But the truth is, the deeper you feel, the more powerful you become. Because under every wave of emotion is an intelligence waiting to be unlocked. And you're not afraid to go there. You live there. You don't just visit the underworld, you build temples in it. You don't just cry over the pain, you alchemize it into wisdom. and that's why your presence unsettles people. Because your very existence reveals how much they've been avoiding their own truth. The emotional overwhelm you feel isn't random. It's part of your technology. You're wired to feel the pain of both the light and the dark because you're meant to integrate them. You hold the grief of the divine feminine and the rage of the wounded masculine. You channel the innocence of the child and the sorrow of the ancient soul. You feel the joy of potential and the despair of disconnection at the same time. And that can make you feel crazy, bipolar, broken. But you're not. You're just awake in a world that has forgotten how to feel. And that's why grounding is not optional for you, it's essential. You can't afford to live in your head. You have to find ways to anchor your energy. Nature isn't just nice for you, it's medicine. Movement isn't just exercise, it's exorcism. Silence isn't laziness, it's recalibration. You need practices that bring you back to your body, because your body is the only place where you can translate the chaos into clarity. You don't ground to escape your sensitivity, you ground to wield it like a sword. But let me ask you something that might break your heart open. How many times have you carried the pain of others and called it your own? How many times have you apologized for your intensity when your intensity was actually a gift from the divine? How many times have you dimmed your frequency just to make others comfortable, only to feel like you were slowly disappearing? And what would happen if you stopped doing that? What would happen if you stopped apologizing for how deeply you feel and started honoring it as the sacred radar system it is? Being a bridge chosen one means you feel both the wounds of the world and the potential to heal them. You feel the despair and the breakthrough, the horror and the hope. And you're one of the few who can hold both without collapsing. That's not normal. That's miraculous. That's why you're needed. And yes, it's exhausting. Yes, it's lonely. Yes, it's overwhelming. But you're not broken. You're tuned to a higher broadcast. You're not weak. You're wired for multidimensional truth. And the more you trust that, the more your life begins to make sense, not in a way that others will always understand, but in a way that your soul will finally recognize. You are not here to numb the pain. You are here to name it, feel it, transmute it, and then teach others to do the same. That's the sacred weight. That's the rarest form of leadership. That's the kind of power that doesn't need a spotlight, because the entire universe already knows who you are. The hidden mission, why bridge chosen ones are the spiritual architects of the new earth. There comes a time in every bridge chosen one's life when the question shifts from why do I feel so different to what am I here to do with it. That shift is subtle, but everything changes in that moment, because you stop running from your mission and start remembering it. And that memory doesn't come as a light bulb, it comes like a flood. You start to realize that your entire life, with all its beauty and brutality, was preparing you not to escape the world, but to rebuild it. You're not just a sensitive soul. You're not just a survivor of duality. You're an architect, one of the spiritual engineers of the new earth. And your blueprint is encoded in your contradictions. But the mission isn't what you thought it would be. It's not about being a guru on a mountaintop. It's not about being universally adored. It's not even about being understood. It's about embodying unity in a divided world. Your role is to show, not just tell, to live integration in a world that's still addicted to extremes. And that's why your journey has been so raw, because you had to become the medicine before you could offer it. You had to feel every fracture of the old paradigm in your own bones, so that when the time came you could recognize it, dismantle it, and build something new in its place. New Earth is more than just a spiritual buzzword. It's a vibrational reality, a frequency, a field of consciousness where unity, truth, compassion, and power are no longer in conflict, and bridge chosen ones are the conduits of that frequency. You're here to terraform the energetic landscape, not through force, but through embodiment. You don't change the world by yelling at it. You change it by becoming a living, breathing invitation to something truer. But you don't fight the old paradigm, you transcend it by refusing to replicate it. That's a harder path, but it's the one your soul chose. And here's the part no one talks about: your mission is hidden by design. You won't get a roadmap. You won't get applause. You'll be asked to walk blind, sometimes led only by intuition, dreams, synchronicities, and a quiet knowing in your gut that says this way. You'll be called to leave relationships that no longer resonate. You'll be asked to speak truths that shake people. You'll be drawn to places without knowing why, only to realize later that your frequency was needed there. Because you are not just a person, you're a frequency carrier. And where you go, you shift the grid. Let me ask you something sacred. What if the reason your life has felt like a constant dismantling is because you are not here to inherit the world as it is, but to midwife the world as it will be? What if your breakdowns are not failures but spiritual contractions? What if your sensitivity isn't a weakness, but a compass pointing you toward the places that are ready to evolve? You are not here to fix the old systems. You're here to birth the new ones, systems built on coherence, on reciprocity, on soul. You're not just here to heal people, you're here to help them remember who they really are, beneath the programming, beneath the trauma. And that's the real revolution. It's not in fighting for the old to be fair. It's in creating something so aligned, so true, so vibrationally elevated that the old becomes irrelevant. But to do that, you must first trust your own frequency. You must stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the world to catch up, because it won't not until you lead. Not with ego, not with force, but with truth, with presence, with the audacity to live in alignment even when no one else around you understands it. You will be judged, you will be questioned, but you will also be remembered. Because when the dust settles and the old paradigms collapse under their own weight, it will be the bridges who remain, the ones who dared to hold light and dark in the same breath, the ones who didn't just talk about unity, they became it. Your mission is not to save the world, it's to seed it with your words, with your art, with your energy, with the way you love, the way you choose, the way you see. And as you do, you activate others. Not by telling them what to believe, but by reminding them of what they already know. Because deep down, we all remember. And your frequency? It's the tuning fork that rings that memory awake. You are a builder, a way shower, a code carrier. And no, it won't always be easy. But it will always be sacred. So stop trying to fit in. You were never meant to. You were meant to weave together what others divided. You were meant to hold the blueprint of the future in your body. And now, it's time to build. The final sign: you are the key between worlds, and that's why you've been tested like no one else. You've probably wondered more times than you can count, why does it feel like life keeps testing me harder than anyone else? Why the betrayals, the isolation, the spiritual disorientation, the relentless cycles of breaking and rebuilding? Why does it seem like just when you start to find your footing, something pulls it out from under you again? The truth is almost too big to say plainly, but here it is: you are the key between worlds. You are the rare soul who holds access codes to both the old and the new, the seen and the unseen, the light and the shadow. And because of that, your path could never be easy. It had to be refined by fire. You've been tested not because you are weak, but because you are capable of holding more than most. The universe doesn't waste divine architecture on casual missions. You've been asked to carry more weight because you're meant to unlock more doors. And those doors don't just open with knowledge, they open with frequency. That's why your wounds became your wisdom. That's why your heartbreak became your access point. That's why your entire life has felt like a non-linear, chaotic series of initiations, because you weren't just being challenged, you were being activated. You are the bridge, but you are also the key. And keys must be shaped. They must withstand pressure. They must be carved over and over again. until they are precise enough to unlock gateways that were never meant to open easily. That's why nothing in your life has been random. Every relationship that collapsed, every job you lost, every time you thought you were finally safe, only to be thrown into another spiritual storm, it was all part of the shaping, not punishment, preparation. Let me ask you something that may shake you to your core. What if your tests weren't obstacles but initiations into your own power? What if the pain wasn't meant to break you but to tune you like a sacred instrument being calibrated to a frequency so rare, so specific, that only a few in this lifetime will ever carry it? Would you still call it unfair? Or would you start to see it as holy? The final sign that you are a bridge chosen one is this: you are still here, after everything, after the betrayals that made you question your worth, after the spiritual voids when even your guides went silent, after the nights you cried into the floor and begged for the pain to end. You're still standing, still feeling, still loving, still seeking truth when it would be so much easier to go numb. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. Your endurance is not just survival, it's evidence of sacred capacity. And now, something incredible is happening. You're starting to realize that your life isn't just a story of pain, it's a map of transmutation. You've turned trauma into wisdom. You've turned loss into alignment. You've refined your discernment, your intuition, your sense of what's real and what's just noise. And in a world drowning in illusions, your clarity is gold. You don't just see the world as it is, you see the spaces between worlds, the portals most people miss. And that's why you're here. To walk between, to hold the door open, to remind others what lives beyond fear, beyond ego, beyond duality. But you must accept this role fully. Stop waiting for an external sign. You are the sign. Stop asking when the world will change. You are the change. Stop apologizing for how much you feel, how much you know, how much you care. That depth is your compass. It's how you navigate between realms. It's how you build bridges out of energy, out of truth, out of love that doesn't collapse under pressure. You're not here to fit in. You're here to recode the system. You're not here to be light. You're here to wake people up. And yes, it's lonely, but it's also liberating. Because once you accept that you are a bridge chosen one, you stop trying to be understood by people who were never meant to walk your path. You start finding others like you, quiet revolutionaries, soul architects, grid workers, carriers of ancient codes disguised as ordinary humans. And together, without fanfare, without ego, without needing credit, you build the new world. One frequency at a time, one healed wound at a time, one moment of truth at a time. You are not broken. You are braided with polarity. You are not lost. You are multilocated across timelines. You are not alone. You are part of a secret order of bridge builders. And whether or not the world sees it yet, the universe already knows. You are the rarest chosen one of all. You are the bridge. You are the key. And it's time.